Hasn't been a while. Totally not. Anyway, so yeah, if you guys remember a while ago, not too long, totally not, there was a video I had uploaded where I detailed my experiences using Linux, specifically Pop! OS, the Linux distro made by System 76. And I basically said that while I enjoyed my time with it, I needed to go back to Windows temporarily for school and everything else. Recently, I made a community post saying I was back on Linux, and I wanted to detail my full experience using Linux, from switching distros completely, and how I recommend going about it. Because I feel like a lot of people, even people who know decent stuff about computing, doesn't know how simple Linux is. No, not everything just plugs and plays exactly like Windows. There's the amount, just to get this VTuber working, which is going to be part of the story I'm about to tell, took so much hoops to get working, to where I would not recommend Linux if you want to be a VTuber. But if you want to say fuck it, I will explain how I got this VTuber working. Which, yes, I am on Linux right now. So, yeah. Fuck you, Windows. Anyway, yeah, so around, I'm gonna say mid-June, I started flip-flopping between wanting to go back to Linux and deciding against it. I didn't really know where I stood on the whole Linux thing for that long, because I genuinely is like, I like Linux, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. I don't know exactly what I did wrong, and deleting the Windows thing was my own mistake. A lot of people say that, oh, was it something wrong with the OS? No, I just didn't read what I was doing properly. But this time, I intentionally knew if I were to switch to Linux, it would be permanent, which meant I had to find fixes for a lot of the things I use. Thankfully, I use DaVinci Resolve for editing. That has a native Linux version. There's a lot of things I use that do use Windows, but thankfully, a lot of my stuff is free and open source. I am a firm believer that using free and open source software is just as good as using anything that isn't free and open source. Yeah, mostly everything else I use, either proprietary or not, has Linux versions. There are some things that don't, like VCFace, but that was the biggest hurdle. For me to return to content, I would need to get VCFace running natively on Linux, which is not easy. But eventually I decided, fuck it, I have more free time. I decided I have a lot of free time, I'm gonna download Linux. And I decided to go back to Pop! OS, which I thought was gonna be a good idea at the time. Keyword thought. If you guys don't look into Linux often, you know Pop! OS is currently going through desktop environment change. For those who don't know, a desktop environment is actually what the distro runs on. From the basic level, everything is being run secretly through the terminal, but you have a desktop layer that allows you to pretty much run everything natively without much of a hassle. Or to run everything like you just click and it starts, like in Windows. But there is some issues with that. Pop! OS recently released an OS desktop environment called Cosmic Environment. It basically just came out, like, around the month I switched back. You know, the week I was on Linux, and then the week after I went back to Windows, they were like, oh, guess what? We have a brand new environment, and I didn't know that. So I just downloaded Pop! OS again, not knowing how still in beta Pop! OS's Cosmic desktop is. If you want to switch to Linux, I used to recommend Pop! OS, but now I'm just like, no. But after that, still wanting to use Pop! OS, I still had the bootable USB that the original Pop! OS that I used had. So I installed that one, finding out that it had at least a year left of support. So at least gave me time and hope that Pop! OS would get everything working and everything would run flawlessly. The issue with Pop! OS becomes apparent. One, it runs more like especially if you're using GNOME, which is the original layer desktop environment they used. That version, that runs more like Mac. So if you don't like Mac OS or how it's laid out, GNOME will not help you at all. It'll look very annoying and piss you off. It pissed me off a lot. And I just hated this giant black bar that was at the top of the screen. It was a hassle. But I got it working, and then came the biggest thing. The biggest hurdle that kept me from using Linux permanently. Because honestly, I got everything else I needed to work on Linux, except for this girl, the VTuber. She never worked. I tried so many things to get VCFace working, and using other open source Linux supported apps, none of them worked. Or at least I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong with them. So I sat down and was like, I'm gonna get this right. I got the VC face to work using a Proton layer through Steam. It would open. The problem is it would not connect to my goddamn camera, even though the webcam worked flawlessly. And no matter what I did, the webcam would not connect. Eventually, I Googled it, I looked up 1,000 different fixes, and eventually what I did now, basically what I do is I had to download some OpenCFace compatibility layers to like get the ability to stream a connection of face tracking to my webcam. And when I did that and I connected it to my webcam, it finally worked. And thankfully it was very easy to transfer over to the new distro, but we're not at that distro yet. But yeah, everything else worked fine. Like I said, most of the games I play either have native Linux support or run pretty well with Proton. So there was nothing really issues there. Streaming was gonna go great. Everything else was going fine. I genuinely didn't have much issues with running Pop! OS. Everything was working great. And then everything broke. Pop! OS, I used to say was worth it. It is not. If you use it, I genuinely want to know I'm impressed with you, but it is just not worth it for me. Like, everything started breaking, from my VTuber, to my Steam, to Proton layers, meaning I couldn't play any video games. All I could do was play Minecraft, watch YouTube, and call on Discord. Basically locking me out of like half of what you do. And this is the main reason why people quit using Linux, even if they don't want to use Windows. Linux has issues within the kernel bit. If something breaks down to the kernel level and you don't know how to fix it, you genuinely will be stuck. And I didn't know how to fix things from the kernel level. So I gave up and I distro hopped, which for those of you who don't know is the process of moving from one Linux distro to another. It is a pretty easy process. You just make another bootable USB and you're good. And that's what I did. I made a new Linux. I switched to an OS that my friend Mothix recommended me through someone they knew, called Catchy OS. The only thing that scared me about Catchy was that it uses Arch Linux, which I always heard rumors about how hard it was to get working. So I was a little scared. But I also heard that it literally feeds through your computer to find the best version of how to run itself, so it should not break as frequently. Also, it has its own Proton layer, so a lot of games will work flawlessly on it. So, with nowhere else to go, so no other options, at midnight, I switched to Catchy OS. And oh my god, if everything just started to fall into place, except for one goddamn fucking thing created by the devil himself. You guys know Black Ops 3? The third entry in a mainline Call of Duty franchise. You guys know Call of Duty? Does anyone here play Call of Duty? The game is notoriously hard to run on Linux. It became the reason I couldn't switch to Linux full time. I almost considered going back to Windows, and this whole video would have been fucking pointless. What made me actually go back, this time though, I am determined to get everything working on Linux. I refuse to go back, because just things work so much better on here. There's not as much bloat in terms of RAM. You want to know how much RAM Catchy OS is using right now? 1 gigabyte. You want to know how much RAM Windows 11 used on my computer? 5. I only have 16 gigabytes of RAM. Do you really think I would want to go back? Black Ops 3 is by far the most broken piece of shit I've ever had the pleasure of playing. And it's a good game, and I love playing it. But, Jesus fucking Christ, is it a headache to get working. Every update, let's also mind you, if you don't know, Arch does rolling updates, meaning once a week, new things come out. You don't have to update once a week. Most people recommend every 2 weeks, just in case things from the previous week's update broke a lot of things. So, wait till the next week to fix everything. And usually, I believe I started doing that. But is a very big but. I'm a determined little shit. I did not want to switch back to Windows. So, I was like, fuck this shit. I'm getting Black Ops 3 working. And so far, the main issue is every time I update, it just breaks again. I'm hoping what I did now fixes it, which is what I did is I set it to a fixed Proton layer because Catchy Proton updates with the rolling updates, meaning it can break. But most of the time it seems to be working fine. But I got it working, and it seems to be working fine, but Jesus fucking Christ. Now, here's some things. Now, this is kind of like all the setup. This is not the main thing. I just wanted to give you an update on it. Now, here's some things I want to recommend if you switch to Linux. You may just think all you need to do is create a bootable USB, install the distro you want, and that's it. You're just doing everything fine. But no, you have to make sure your needs specifically fit what you want out of Linux. If you genuinely need Windows or Mac for most of your softwares, I would not recommend switching. For people who are stuck on Adobe, I don't recommend switching. I don't know how to get Adobe software to work, mostly because I don't use Adobe. So, I don't do it. I've been using GIMP ever since I lost my Adobe subscription, and it works fine. It's the same thing. In fact, I recommend, if you genuinely don't want to pay for Adobe anymore and want to switch, I do recommend just trying out open source software on Windows or Mac. Don't do what I did the first time and just switch because you're tired of Windows without properly running through everything you need to do. What I did is I made a list. I had certain things that could only run on Windows. And the only thing that genuinely made it seem like it wasn't a good idea was getting my VTuber to work. And it was a big deal, because without my VTuber, I had to debate on how I was going to make videos or do anything content related for a while. I don't want to quit, but that was a thought going in my head. But yeah, I highly recommend just picking the distro that's right for you. What I recommend Catchy. I still don't think I'm far enough along in my Linux journey to give a recommendation this time. I thought I could recommend Pop! OS, but then Pop! OS decided it wanted to explode and make a shitty desktop environment that's not fucking ready. But here's what I recommend. If you want to switch to Linux, figure it out yourself. Do the research. Linux is a lot more complicated than a lot of Linux users are willing to tell you. And you are gonna spend hours looking through forums, Googling, and fucking doing so much to just get fucking shit working. And it was so hard. But that also is another issue with Linux. Too many options. How many of you genuinely want to switch to Linux, but Google, I want to switch to Linux, and they give you like 15 different distros to choose from, and you genuinely don't know which ones to do? Yeah, me too. I recommend if you have an older piece of hardware that's like maybe an older computer, an older laptop, like maybe like 5 or 6 years old, maybe even older, install Linux Mint on it first, just to get a feel for Linux, just to figure out like how you would use it in that time. In my opinion, that is the best way to get Linux to work. And you might be, well, I want to switch to Linux, I'm just scared to use it. Well, like I said, do the research, find which distro works best for you, for your needs. For me, Catchy and Pop are the top two. For creators and streamers and gamers, Catchy is number one. Maybe Pop would get back up to the top 5 if it fixes itself, but it sucks. That's another reason I think people get annoyed with Linux. The user base. The user base is genuinely one of the most annoying people I've ever had to deal with. Whenever I would text an issue I had on Reddit, which if you follow me on Reddit, I guess you've been noticing I've been touring forums. I would text my issue, be like, oh, this is the issue I've been having, especially with Pop! OS at the start. And Linux users would be like,
actually, it works fine on my end, so you're just doing something wrong. Put this command into the command line, and it works just fine.
Or how about help a person who wants to switch? How about that? No? You just think it's better to just make fun of me? Okay, fair.
It's because I'm a woman, isn't it?
But yeah, yeah, but it's still better than Windows, so, you know. Okay, so I feel like I need to also make this part of the video. Addressing where I've been, addressing what's been going on, all that shit. Well, so I graduated college. So, yay me! Away! And then I just kind of got stuck. I was confused on what to do, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I've been working, not really a job in what I want to do, but it just helps to have a job in this economy. Are you kidding me? To be honest, I was suffering from burnout for a lot of this year. Making internalization broke me creatively. It was such a big movie for me to make. I don't care if it didn't do well or anything like that. For me, it was more than that. And I'm proud of what I made. If you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend you watch it. There is a warning though, if you can't handle certain topics. The movie delves into a lot of mental health issues and does not hold back. So If you cannot watch stuff like that, please do not watch it. That's all I recommend. But making content, to me at least, is more than just a hobby now. It's something I like doing. And it's something I've always wanted to keep doing. I just was, every time I pressed the record button or tried to write a script, up until this month, I was just burnt out. Every time I tried to do something creatively, I just got so tired immediately. I'm still not getting used to it. It's still hard to like just be like, oh hey, this is me. Like, what you're seeing is me. I just had a lot of creative burnout, and it wasn't until recently that the itch to make something again popped back up. And it was festering in May, but it was growing a lot. It's been basically like, I need to make something. I'm tired of just sitting on my ass doing nothing. I want to make something again. And this video, as much of it is as an update of my life, of just my Linux journey, it's also an update of my life. Another big thing you guys need to know is I moved. I'm not going to say where, but I do not live where I used to live. I live somewhere else now, and I'm a lot happier here. That's all I'll say. But yeah, what's going to happen to the channel and all that shit, I'm still making videos. They are not going to be what you saw me make for a long time. They're different. Honestly, I don't think this channel has ever stuck to a theme before, and it won't stick to one now. Do not expect it to. Streaming will still be gaming, though, obviously. So, yeah. But yeah, I hope you guys stick around. Also, in case you're wondering what happened to that Alicia's a Nerd channel, don't actually expect that to get uploads anymore. I don't know, I kind of want to combine what I was doing here with that channel and mush it together. But yeah, so yeah, I highly recommend you guys to stick around. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like the comment, oh my god. Can you tell I haven't done this in a while? Like the video if you liked it, dislike the video if you didn't like it, and I'll see you guys all later. So, see you soon.